One of the biggest conversations today for entrepreneurs and coaches, often frustrated, entrepreneurs frustrated with pace of change, trying to figure out how do you get your vision out into the market with the resistance to change in the world. People don't like change. And coaches who are frustrated with building the coaching practice in the way they want and getting results, seeing their clients actually get results and change. And service providers often feeling like, my clients won't let me do what I could do best because they're interfering, they're making it hard, or they don't want to pay. They're investing in the wrong place. So I have to adjust my service package to sell it because the market wants quick results, or 5 steps to this, 7 steps to that, magic doohickeys for the website or whatever. So we're all, I think, at least I am, maybe you don't, seeing this everywhere in the society. So there's a misalignment between us, meaning entrepreneur, coach, service providers, figured something out. And there's a misalignment with the market, the customers. So that's important to work out. And the concept, when taken to its extreme, is the idea is everything collapsing? Is everything collapsing? Is everything collapsing? My answer is yes, it is. It is. Everything is collapsing. Everything. The healthcare system, the technology systems, the coaching industry, the service provider industry, the entrepreneur industry, it's all collapsing. The society, the government, it is all collapsing. That's why we feel a sense of collapse, because it's happening. How fast? Well, that nobody really knows, do we? No one ever knows. If you think you can time the market, um, you must be some kind of genius. Now, if you're going to time the market and really succeed, like a hedge fund kind of person, and short a market that's collapsing, usually those people are serious experts in whatever they're looking at. So if you're an expert in agriculture, you're spending all your time for years understanding how agriculture markets works, or mortgages, like back in the day with The Big Short. It ended up being a movie with Steve Carell. Well, this is a real story based on a real book by Michael Lewis, The Big Short. And I think it was Michael Lewis. Got it here somewhere. And George Soros. People think about George Soros as a progressive kind of, and he is, and then now he's the villain of the right wing. But he made money shorting. I think it was how he did it. I don't know exactly how he did it. I don't remember, but it was the British pound sterling back in the day during a debt crisis, and he shorted it, and he made billions. Like, he made serious money. Because things were collapsing, and he knew, because he was an expert. So what I am saying is that I've spent my whole life looking at markets and trying to understand change and what's next. And when I see, and I'm paying careful attention, I don't know how to time it, but what I see is an imminent collapse of some sort of everything. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. I'm excited. So I'm looking at it as, this is good for us, for all societies. It's good for everybody, but it's hard for people who don't want to change they don't want anything to change. We need everything to change, I think. Now, you may not. You may want to hold on to a lot. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't think that makes any sense. It's not that everything's terrible. I don't think anything's terrible. I think this is great, what's going on. It's that everything that's broken or built on quicksand or legacy technology, or bad ideas, or good ideas that are now all screwed up later as everything's changed, and the structures haven't, but need to change, but didn't, because people are holding on to the old systems. There's a great book. I don't know if I have it right in. No, I have it somewhere else, but it's called "Orbiting the Giant Hairball." It it's about corporate. So every corporate entity. This guy used to work at Hallmark. He was a creative at Hallmark, and he's saying, every corporate entity is filled with belief systems that aren't true, but people in the corporate entity believe them, but they're not true. So when Amazon says, "Come back to work, and we're going to be like we were in the old days, an entrepreneur company, and we're going to go back to that," that's crazy. Jeff Bezos doesn't know what he's talking about. That doesn't make any sense. It's not true at all. It's not even close to true. Amazon is at a phase where they need a purpose beyond just processing things faster. If I was running Amazon, what I would be doing is looking at what kind of world do I want to build, create together as a company now that we got everything. How am I going to do it? With the market, within the market, which in their case is almost everything, as opposed to how do we go back to our entrepreneur roots? That's insane. They're not there. They have something different now because they're different, but they're not. They're going back and holding on to a world that no longer exists. And that is going to collapse because that's how it works. When you hold on to what is not real, it collapses eventually. So, when I say I look at Amazon as the next Blockbuster or Sears, people look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm seeing the principles. When will it happen? I don't know, 10 years or tomorrow. I have no idea. We stopped by I discontinued Prime and stopped buying from Amazon unless I have to because I can't find it anywhere else. So for food, we go to other places. Because Whole Foods is terrible now. It was great. Now it's terrible. I'm like, that's going to collapse because they don't care about food anymore. All they care about is processing food fast. You go in there, people are rushing around processing everything. And I'm thinking of the John Cusack movie of Say Anything from years ago. He's like, he's trying to explain to somebody who can't understand, who's basically a criminal, which is this woman he loves, played by Yon Sky, Diane Court. Um, he's trying to explain why he's worthy of this only daughter. And this guy cannot understand because he's so embedded in the matrix of the belief systems of the society around money and what success means. And he can't hear it. And John Cusack saying, he's like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Meaning, are you good enough for my daughter? Are you worthy of my daughter? Are you going to be successful enough? And he gives the answer, which I would have loved to hear if I was the dad, which is, I don't want to process anything, buy anything, sell anything. I don't want to buy anything processed, sold, or marketed. This whole thing, it's great. And he says, I'm noticing something interesting though. Kickboxing. I think I should go down that route. That's it. He figured it out, and he was really young. So of course something's going to work for him in kickboxing, and it was new. Now they didn't go into that in the movie, but so I'm thinking Hollywood is collapsing. They can't find a business model. Social influence is collapsing. We don't see it though, because it's still there. So it's almost like in Orbiting the Giant Hairball, he has an example of chickens. So if you draw, I don't know if this is true, but it's in the book. You draw a white line on the ground and you take a chicken and you put its beak on the line, it doesn't move. And he says, this is what corporations are doing. This is what Amazon's doing right now to its employees because they think it's prestigious to work there. That's ridiculous. Of course it's not. So you put your beak, the belief system is it's prestigious, but it's not real. That's an attraction mechanism of a belief system in a society that can't see that's old news. It's done. They process stuff fast. They figured it out. They built this big online marketplace and AWS and the whole thing. It's done. It's not what's next. It's what's gonna go away eventually, because what's next is gonna roll into orbit in the market, and we're gonna leave Amazon. The minute anybody can stop using any of their stuff, they're going to, because it's old and it doesn't work anymore. It's a mess. So if I look at the chicken example, what he's saying is, okay, you got to work in corporate. Now, today you don't. I don't think that guy would work at Hallmark. He would have quit in a year. He would have maybe spent a couple years. He spent his whole career at Hallmark, kind of like with all this insanity around him, in the corporate mentality of belief systems of people who couldn't see what he was saying around creativity and freedom and liberation from the matrix and being yourself. He's teaching that to people who don't get it and think he's goofy, but he became like a beloved goofy, crazy uncle in the company, and then wrote, this great book, which is incredible, Orbiting the Giant Hairball. um, Social media is a giant hairball in the influencer economy, and all these things that are being done right now are giant hairballs that are going to collapse, because back in the day it was slow. So Hallmark could be the way they were and get away with it. Now they're still a big deal. So that's not the point. The point is having to work in a place like that fits people who want to be in the matrix. They want to be chickens with the beak on the white line. He's saying you'll have a better time in corporate if you raise your beak up, meaning you start orbiting the belief systems. So you become yourself in the context of the corporate belief systems and environment, but just detach yourself or be unattached, but still be connected into the world of that corporate mentality that's all screwed up and confused, because people believe things that aren't true in these places. And he figured out how to do that. He had a great career there. So you can do it. You can do it. You can work at Amazon and do it, but it's hard at a place like Amazon because the tractor beam of destroy your life for us, like when you were an entrepreneur, single at 18 or 21 or 25 years old, is pretty seductive in this society because people believe this at scale. So it's hard to go against it. So I'm thinking about the social influence economy, legacy technology, meaning Amazon and Google and Meta, Facebook. Those are all legacy technologies now that don't really work anymore. And they're not what's next because they don't really work. So if you look at an ad network like Facebook, Instagram, Google, it's not supporting what's coming next, which is freedom, where people want to find their own voice, be original creators, get out of the marketing thought loops, and be able to connect with the people around a shared desire that are there for them. You want to be with they want to be with each other, and these systems don't enable that. They make it harder. That's why they're not going to survive long term. But because they're here, we think it's real, not legacy technology. Google was new. I first saw it back in 98, I think, or 96, maybe it was. I think it was 98. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Now I think it's horrible because it's an ad network. Um, it was they became an network back then, and they marginalized the creators of it. The Google guys, remember them? Now they own islands and they travel around in submarines and spaceships, with their families. I don't know what they're doing, but they're not involved in the company anymore because they got pushed out. I think Sequoia Capital pushed them out, and then they brought in an adult to ruin it. His name is he's still Eric Schmidt. So he ruined the company because he turned it into an ad network. So I'm looking at who didn't. Stan Lee, the Google guys, Steve Jobs. That inspires me, and I feel the same way about any successful entrepreneur and business innovator like Oprah, Sara Blakely, who did Spanx, or Melanie Perkins, who did Canva. Now, at some point, somebody ruins these things, but that's not the belief. Is it has to be that way? It doesn't. Google didn't have to destroy they didn't have to give up the company. At that time, they needed the money to do it. Now, there's different ways today to do these things. There's more opportunities. And, if you look at original creators now, they're doing it now. It's easier and easier and easier to be an original creator and not have to give up control of your company. Howard Schultz today, he probably could have kept Starbucks solid. It was great when it started. Now it's horrible. And it's what kids call mid, meaning it's Some people love Starbucks. Again, the belief system. They've never been in a cool coffee shop in Seattle or Chicago or New York. They think, oh, Starbucks is great. It's a drive-through like McDonald's. Um, it's not a third place like the original vision of Howard Schultz. And then it was an employment cool job, the barista. I remember when they opened in my neighborhood in Chicago, it was real early with Starbucks, and my neighbor became a barista. And I'm like, that is so cool. You're a barista. Now it's like, oh God, I work at Starbucks. I got to get out of here. Um, it was great back then. Now it's they destroyed it because he needed money. I mean, it's not Howard Schultz's fault. It's the public markets and the quarterly earnings, and we got to grow and grow and grow, even though what we're doing is stupid. Um, so original creators don't operate like this. So it's called organic growth. So you build something that lasts. Taylor Sheridan's doing this in Hollywood. Um, Naval Ravikant did it in technology industry in Silicon Valley. He told people, there's principles underneath life. You don't have to chase your next success. Isn't 100 million enough? They're like, no, I got to do it again. Why? Because I want to. Why? Oh, I don't really want to. You got to figure out your own way. That's what he's saying. Ray Dalio, hedge fund. He's orbiting these people are orbiting the giant hairball. Taylor Sheridan's orbiting the giant hairball of Hollywood. He knows how to do it. You can see it in the product in his so Yellowstone, this thing about the CIA now, it's amazing. Naval Ravikant orbiting the giant hairball of the technology industry. Everybody told him, don't do that. It's too weird. They'll reject you. And he did it anyways. He's orbiting the giant hairball of Silicon Valley. They're stuck in belief systems. Don't think they know what they're doing. You have to orbit that hairball. Some orbit it, like Naval, and there's a lot of other ones who are orbiting it too because they need to be there because it's where the engineers are. Ray Dalio orbiting the giant hairball of the hedge fund industry, and he's being attacked for it. But he's doing it. I can see it in his principles book and listening to him. He's a hedge fund billionaire with a big heart. And that's how you deal with collapse. The society needs to collapse to the bottom to rebuild itself. Phoenix rising from the ashes. How's it going to rebuild itself, and who's going to do it? Entrepreneurs like you and me, thinking ahead. What's next? Coaches who help people get there because you worked hard, you figured out yourself, and now you have a gift and you're trying to bring it to the world by using coaching marketing techniques. That's never going to work. And service providers who are great at what they do, who show up and say, hey, I'm great at this. Let me show you what's going on in your company. And the person's like, oh, tell me. Those are your clients we want. You don't want anybody else. If somebody's going to argue with you about truth, now it's one thing for them to push back and say, prove it to me. That makes sense. That's Socratic thinking. But people who just say, no, that's not true. You don't know. I need you to do this. The answer is goodbye. Does anybody except those looking for experience really want to return to work at Amazon? Does anybody want to return to work at Amazon? It's crazy. Who cares about the next Hollywood sequel or what their streaming strategy is? Let it collapse. And then you've got people like Reese Witherspoon, who's got new funding mechanisms for creators. You don't have to do Hollywood. It's going to go away because it's terrible. It's not going to happen overnight. But what doesn't work when it's over, like Montgomery Ward's and Sears catalog, it goes away eventually. But you go back in the day and you tell people that Sears catalog won't be around. They'll tell you you're crazy. The Yellow Pages, when digital started, Elon Musk, his first company, was about mapping and local businesses. And he sold it for a lot of money. And then he rolled that money into PayPal. And they went to some newspapers, and the newspapers said basically, one guy, I forget which newspaper it was, but he said that Yellow Pages is never going away. This is what happens. We're there right now with the things I'm talking about. So you just got to look up Orbit the Giant Hairball of whatever your market belief system is and just say that's not true. You can't just tell everybody because they won't believe you, but you will triumph over time. So Facebook renamed itself Meta, and they're investing billions of dollars into the metaverse. It's never going to work because it's a cringy ad network filled with bots. It's not going to work. Facebook's going to collapse at some point. I don't know when. I use it all the time because I can meet people on it. But I know what it is because I worked in software way back. And so I know what an ad network is. It's for the advertisers. It's not for the people. You're the product. Your data and your free content is their helps them build their product. And their product is targeted marketing platform to bring advertisers together with the eyeballs. The people, their eyeballs, and now there's bots on it everywhere. Would you really want to be in a metaverse platform filled with scammers, schemers, and bots trying to sell you stuff? Nobody's going to want to do it. So I talked about orbiting. I'm reading my LinkedIn thing. I talked about orbiting the giant hairball. It's called A Corporate Fool's Guide to Surviving with Grace. He admitted he's a corporate fool because he works in a corporation. And he knew it. He's like, I don't want to do this. But he found a way through it. And back then, Gordon MacKenzie, who wrote that book, he wouldn't have spent his whole career at Hallmark. He would have been a global original creator running his own metaverse on a platform like I am, like Wheelo. I wouldn't build my company on a Facebook metaverse platform. That's crazy. So I think Gordon, he could have had a best-selling book, Substack, community, a big following. He could have been on all the social platforms, but not relying on them, bringing everything down into his Wheelo Metaverse campus, and maybe doing a lot of workshops on how to be more creative. That means something. Gordon MacKenzie could have done that today, but back then he was stuck at Hallmark. So if you're running a Hallmark, good luck. You're running an Amazon, Facebook, good luck. I know Facebook's trying to bring in people who are like solid people now. They have a test because they want people who can work with other people. I was talking to somebody whose kid is interviewing there, and they still think it's a prestigious place. And I'm like, go work there for 2 years, extract as much, not only information you can get, but extract as many relationships as you can. Use that credential to get known and meet people. Build yourself in public, not as a Facebook employee, but based on what you find and notice is valuable for you, and bring that into the world on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, but really focus on what's next, which is more Substack, Quora, Medium. And I found one recently called Mastodon, which I'm messing around with. And that's where it's going to be. And then you'll be there. You'll be the catcher in the rye in your market. And then the minute you leave Facebook, which you want to do as fast as possible, once you get what you need from them, they're going to fire you anyways the minute you succeed. I met a guy years ago who he had a great talk on being an entrepreneur. And he said, first, don't do it. And then he said he was talking about Ivanka Trump, and he said the best way to make $1 million is to have $1 million to start. I thought that was hilarious. Entrepreneurs are not like real entrepreneurs are not like that. You usually don't have anything. You're just trying to figure it out. And then you just keep going, and eventually it works if you stick with it long enough and go through the pain. Um, and he said something really smart. This guy, Barry Moltz, who did this talk, I met him years ago. I immediately went up to him and I was like, "You want to have coffee?" And he said, "Yes." That's what I've done my whole life. I meet somebody and I'm like, "Hey, you want to hang out?" Usually the answer is yes or no, you know. So you might as well ask. And it's because I want to be around good people. Don't you, in your market? And he said when he was at IBM, he said every time he succeeded, they cut his compensation. They changed the commission plan because they didn't want to pay out too much money to successful salespeople. That's crazy. Now IBM's still around. So giant hairballs don't just evaporate overnight because they're doing good things. So you look at an IBM, you look at some of these companies, they've got real serious products and engineers and expertise that's valuable. Microsoft, LinkedIn's a good product. Microsoft's a good company, but it's a giant hairball, but it's one that's working. They're evolving. That's why. When you get something that's not evolving, good luck. When you get something that's a total mess like Google, at least the search system or YouTube is people love YouTube, but don't forget it's an ad network still, and there's a lot of stuff on it that's not true. I mean, Google moon landing, yeah, that's a problem. That can't last forever. If somebody figures out a way to get all the crap off of it and it's a great user experience and people own their own site, they own their name on YouTube. Right now, you don't own anything. They shut me off without warning, notice, and it's been 9 months I have appealed. I haven't heard anything back. No, almost, it'll be 12 a year in October. No, the appeals are unanswered. They just closed my account on YouTube for violations. I don't even know what violations there were. So that can't last, but people love it because it's a good product, because there's a lot of good stuff on there if you wade through all the crap. But they're using an addictive device based on brain science to keep people on the ad network running on the hamster wheel because that's their business model. That can't last. People are going to want better than that because that's going in the wrong direction. This is the key, I think, for us as entrepreneurs. It's we want to go in the right direction. The Stan Lee direction, the Google guys direction, the Steve Jobs direction, the Oprah direction, Sara Blakely, Melanie Perkins, original creators like Taylor Sheridan, Naval Ravikant, Ray Dalio, and Mark Zuckerberg back in the day, although Facebook was originally basically a way to rank women at Harvard by attractiveness. So I don't know about that thing from the very beginning, if that really is a good company, but you can't deny the innovation and the importance of it at the beginning, but that's long gone. Um, and people still love it. They still use it. Just don't build your entrepreneur business on it. Extract from it. If you're going to work there, extract from it. Don't help them unless it helps you. It's not real. It's a belief system that is a a success. Succeeding at Facebook is not a real success. Succeeding on your own, something that's really permanent where you're connected to yourself. I'm talking about for entrepreneurs. For corporate employees, it's different. If you just want to be a corporate employee and be in the hairball, a chicken, with your beak on the white line and not orbit it, it's fine. You'll be successful. Just do what they say. Go back to Amazon, go back to headquarters and follow orders. And I'd say, 80% of the people in the society are perfectly happy with that. But we're not. If you're listening to this, you're not, or you would have turned me off a long time ago. All right, I'm going to take a few minutes and put this in some context, I think. So I want to talk about bubbles and this idea of collapse. So bubbles always collapse. So if you look at the tulip bubble from, you know, I don't know what that was, 1600s in the Netherlands and Denmark, or Dutch, what is it called? Netherlands, but what was it called? Holland back then. Um, or the mortgage crisis is a good explanation of this, or the anti-communist stuff from the 50s with McCarthy from Wisconsin, junior senator from Wisconsin. That stuff's always going to collapse because it's not real. It's based on an illusion, a magic trick of beliefs. So the belief today is if I become popular on social media, I'll attract an audience and I will be able to oversubscribe my offerings, whatever those happen to be, and make money because I'm popular. That's not true. That is a result that is happening for many people that did it when it was easy, not easy, never easy, but when it was wide open, a wide open lane. But most people don't see the wide open lane. The people who did back then were original entrepreneurs. Russell Brunson created something new, um, influencer kind of stuff with digital marketing online. He integrated direct response marketing, which is all that crap you get mailed, all the spam that comes into your spam mail, Dan Kennedy spam from like late night TV, spam. And he integrated that into an online Google product, the potato gun, and created something new. Um, that's all going to collapse now because it's old. Um, Now the new form is school with the funnels. And I see school communities and I look at them and I'm like, why is this here? And if there's a purpose underneath it, like we're talking about Gordon MacKenzie, where he's going to teach people creativity, then it's like, yeah, that'll last. I don't think school is the best platform for that. I think there's better ways to do it. Welo and Go High Level is what I'm using. I did a school community over a year ago, and a year ago, yeah, not over a year ago, it was last January, but we started in September, so about a year ago, and then launched. I'm like, nah, this isn't it. But I get it for funneling and marketing purposes, and chat. It's not bad, and you have a calendar so you can stay organized because Sam Ovens made it simple. They're blowing it up right now. Everybody's buying it. That doesn't mean it's going to last. Everyone got into the mortgage industry too. Who's going to get wiped out? Who got wiped out in Silicon Valley before 2000 or in 2000 when it collapsed? Back to Mark Andreessen explains this. Back to banking, back to consulting. It's going to happen in school. It's going to happen in the influencer economy. It's going to happen on social media. It's a bubble. So the bubble is indicated by the circularity. And this is what happened in the tech industry. So it was the circularity. Well, let me not go into that. Let me talk about social media. So the circularity is the product is succeeding on social media. In other words, the product is succeeding in the bubble. Perfect example I just thought of. Arizona was number one in the nation. Arizona's entire growth back before the mortgage bubble popped was in new home construction. State Farm. So I had a client, State Farm agent for a year. So I sold business insurance for years. So I know the insurance industry really well, and I know State Farm really well. And I considered opening a State Farm agency. Thank God I didn't do it. And they were sending people to Arizona because they wanted more agencies in Arizona because that's where the growth was in new home construction. Think about this. Everybody thought that was real at the time. Like people today think the social media economy is real. The influencer economy is real. It's not real. And If you have an economy like they did in Arizona based on new home construction, based on what? A bubble. So you're learning how to succeed in the bubble. These companies are constructing something that is for what? People who are financing it based on fake money. It's going to collapse. And it did. So this new State Farm agents that moved into Arizona, their businesses collapsed. They're probably soaring at first, like school communities. So I'm looking at these Alex Hormozy things of 14 grand a month. You did it, you did it, you did it, you did it. What do they do though? I look at it and I'm like, was this a lead generation success mechanism to succeed on social media? In other words, on the bubble. So back in the mortgage crisis days, going to Arizona, the bubble was the housing market, and mortgages fueled it because they were just giving away the money that didn't exist. It wasn't real. And when it collapsed hard. Now, I don't know if that'll happen with social media because there's no exchange mechanism, but at some point, people are going to realize this isn't working because it isn't. So you make 14 grand. What about in 6 months or 8 months? The communities are going to collapse because they're gamified and they're based on a belief system, which is if I chase money in this bubble long enough, I'll get more of it. It's not going to happen because the more people are doing that, this is the laws of economics. So the supply and demand equation does not favor the school community owner when your school community or your Facebook group or whatever you're doing is about how to get more clients on Facebook or school or wherever. Because the people who are going to make the money is Alex and Sam Ovens. But eventually that'll fail for them because it's a subscription model. And then they'll be on to something else because that's what people like that do. They succeed. The people who they're teaching to succeed, who get to 14 grand a month, 10 grand a month, 5 grand, whatever it is, that's going to be gone in a year because those people aren't going to stick around in those communities because they're not going to get a result. They'll think they're getting a result or they're thinking they will get a result and they'll get mad at me for saying they won't. That's called projection because they have a belief they want to be true. I'm not saying anything new here. This is Freakonomics. This is, any economist that's really paying attention understands the laws of supply and demand. If all of a sudden everybody buys oranges in the grocery store and they get rid of all the other fruit and they fill it up with oranges, at some point people are going to stop buying oranges. But there's a lot of money in oranges at the top as you're in the growth phase. So in social media, when a lot of these people started before it really became mainstreamed, the idea of an influencer, anybody can become an influencer or anybody can create a digital lead gen business or a passive income business where you teach other people how to succeed in the bubble, doing what you did without a product. There's no product there. Russell Brunson talks about this. He said, a funnel is a company. That's not true. It was true when he did it, but now it's a bubble. So a funnel is not a company. So if you have a funnel to get customers, to teach them how to get customers, you're building homes in Arizona before the collapse of the mortgage industry leaves you bankrupt with nothing. And that's what's going to happen is this is it all collapsing? Is Hollywood, social influence, legacy technology, this all stuff's going to all collapse because it's not real anymore. But when it started, it was great. So I don't know what you're doing, but I would say what's the antidote is start with product. Think about what do you know? What is your experience? What are you good at? What change do you want to see in the world? I'm not being negative. I'm excited. What's my Rocky Road ice cream? I know what it is. I've done it. And the Entrepreneur Experience Campus and the Red Pill Pathway and everything I've done is real. It's not based on the bubble. It's the opposite. It's the escape from the bubble. It's escape from the matrix. of beliefs in the society, and that's why it's real, and that's why it actually works.